We love hip hop.
Okay, cool.
So, before we get into this, I want to give a quick salute to the sponsors because, we always got to make sure to pay the bills around here. All right. So big salute to Diamond Club. They got delivery all over the GTA and across Canada. Make sure to check them out on the 7 Days of Weed website as well. Hit them up on their Instagram page, diamondclub_Canada, and you can use the code We Love Hip Hop for a little discount. Also, if you need some of that blem, hit up Steamin' Hot Grabba. They got all the different types of Grabba flavors and dispensers that you need. Hit them up on their Instagram page, Steamin' Hot Grabba, and also use that code We Love Hip Hop. Yeah, man. Listen, this is different than what I expected originally. Okay.
Right, we're supposed to be in person.
Yeah, man. It kind of hurts, bro, because actually it doesn't kind of hurt. It hurts a lot because I was about to make a trip to LA. Everything was planned. The whole team was out there as far as my production team. And we were gonna make history out there and do a lot of interviews, including this gentleman right here who I'm about to speak to. Okay. I've been watching your content, I can say almost 10 years now, to be honest. Yeah. From the hip hop breakdowns that I used to see on HipHopDX and stuff like that. I've been following this gentleman's journey through hip hop journalism. To me, this gentleman is pure hip hop personified. Okay, writing about hip hop from before, a real hip hop journalist. With no further ado, we have Justin Hunt in the building. Yo, thank you.
Word up, man. Thank you for having me, man. That was a warm welcome. I appreciate it, man. I'm a big fan of your show. I was watching the one the other week. Which one was I watching? Does Canada have a sound one? I just thought it was such a detailed, dope conversation that was very introspective, but also at the same time very honest. You know what I mean? Because I hadn't thought about it that way before. So the work you guys are doing over there is really dope, man. I'm happy to be here.
No, I appreciate that, man. As somebody who's been following you parasocially now, to be having a conversation and having to get, to know that you guys have been following what we do in the hip hop scene. Thank you. You know what I mean? We're just representing for the culture as far as up north and giving our perspective on what's happening over there with y'all from a Canadian perspective.
Word up.
So I want to get into a quick history of you yourself and take us up to the present day today. From what I've been going through my research, you're in LA right now. However, you were born in Greenville, South Carolina.
No, I was actually born in Newark, New Jersey.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was born in New Jersey. Brick City used to be called Chocolate City back then because it was like 83% black, one of the blackest places in America at that point in time. Then me, my mom, my dad, we moved to Chesapeake, Virginia. Then we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, then Greenville. And I went to college in Spartanburg, South Carolina at Wofford College, studied abroad in Amsterdam. Then after that, I moved to New York, worked in investment banking for Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. And while I was there, we got really into, it was the blog era of hip hop. And, me and all my friends were really kind of frustrated with where hip hop was at that point in time because there was so much consolidation that had happened on radio and with the record labels. So no matter where you were in the country, everybody heard the same songs, which had never been the case. Generally speaking, wherever you were is the type of music that you were exposed to through local media, through the radio, through the local record stores. But once you get to the early 2000s, post-1996 FCC Consolidation Act, everybody had the same songs on Sucker Free Sunday. Everybody had the same songs on the midday drive on their way home.
Yeah.
And so the blog era was really dope because it exposed us to artists that weren't on the radio. So that's where we were getting all the MF Doom joints. That's where we were getting all the, Lupe Fiasco, for example. And I loved Lupe Fiasco. I was like, I wanted all my friends to hear about Lupe Fiasco. So I started an email blast at work called Lupe Fiasco's Daily Quotable. Wow. And every day I would just email my friends some dope line from Lupe. Lupe said something like, "You can't see me like B.I.G. on CMT." You know what I'm saying? You'll never see Biggie Smalls on country music television. You know what I mean? So
hold on. Where were you working at this point? You weren't doing the investment banking at this point anymore.
I was, yeah. That's exactly,
you were doing this while investment banking.
Right, yeah. I was at work. I was investment banking at work not work. I mean, I was working, but like I would take time from work to let my friends know about this new thing, right? It was such analytical work. You're pushing Excel spreadsheets all day, so it's really good to listen to music while you're just putting together decks and things like that. And I fell in love with just communicating that way. And a friend of mine was like, you should start a blog. This is 2006. And I was like, blogs are played out. You know what I mean? I didn't know what I was talking about. I was just scared more than anything else. And she was like, no, you should do it. So she took some of my emails and put them into a blog. And she said, see, now you can save all your emails and everybody can see them. And I was like, oh, this is actually really dope. Right? So I fell in love with talking about what was happening in rap music, what was happening in hip hop, contextualizing culture. And so I got that passion. I started benchmarking my way out of investment banking at that point.
You know what I'm chuckling at? The fact that the way that it had to be explained to you, like, hey, you can put all your stuff in an email, and all this stuff is second nature to us now, right?
Right, exactly. You know what I mean? And blogs are so passe now. Like you don't, when you talk about innovation, you're not talking about blogs. Okay, like no one is like, how'd you make that website? This is like a totally different era.
So can we just unpack that part of your life for a second? Like as far as the duality between doing the 9 to 5 and just having this like underlying obsession with what's going on in hip hop, right? Were you also able to transition easily through all the different changes? Because you're talking about 2006. So this is post Napster. Things started becoming free. We're in this weird age where it's like how we're going to sell this hip hop. Are we still doing CDs? Are we doing iTunes? How were you maneuvering in those times? Are you like taking it in easily or kind of pushing it away?
I was stealing music. I was definitely pirating. I was super pirate, and I love that era. This is post Napster. Kazaa, LimeWire, BearShare, Audio Galaxy. This was more so file locker era. By the time you get to the mid 2000s, it's like mega upload or just typing in whatever album .zip file. You know what I mean? You used to be able to just find this back when the internet, you could find things on the internet.
Like torrents.
Yeah, right. So that was the era. And if I really so that's how I would get music. And if I really liked something, then I'd go buy it. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, this album was dope. I should actually go give them some money. But if it wasn't dope, it was just kind of like, what am I really doing? I wasn't even using CDs like that. Like this is at this point in time, iPods are out. Everything is MP3 files. This is free streaming. If I got a CD, it was just to rip it so it could go onto my iTunes.
Yeah.
But I would show support by buying CDs, or most of the time, if I didn't do that, I would definitely buy a ticket to the show, and I'd definitely buy a T-shirt. You know what I mean? So you were
always there embracing the evolutions that were happening during. Because, once you start getting into like people who are in their 40s and stuff like that in hip hop, there's two different types. You know what I'm talking about? There's the types that are like, if it ain't backpacker jeans and Tim's type shit, then I don't want it. Right. If it has a tint to auto-tune, it's trash. Right. And then there's the people like ourselves who embrace the different levels and the different technologies that come into play.
Yeah, I'm into it from a cultural standpoint, of course. I'm also really into it on an anthropological level. You know what I mean? Like, I like to see where the conversations are going or where the sounds are coming from. Why I'm more interested in why something is dope than I am that it's dope, right? Because, dope is a subjective feeling. There's a ton of really incredible classic artists that I'm just not a fan of. Everyone gets so mad at me all the time when I'm like, yeah, Guru, not a fan. He's got incredible tracks, the incredible projects. I love Primo. Primo's beats are so crazy. I'm not sure Guru maximized them, but I think that is, but that doesn't mean that Guru's not dope. It just means that that's not my type of rap. And so there's a lot of that's always going to be the case with any era.
Yeah.
And so, but why things got so auto-tuney is interesting to me, or why the 808 drum, connects with pretty much multiple generations at this point in time? Or why was lean the drug of choice that led to such a depressive sound for such a long period of time? You know, music and art a lot of times just follows whatever drugs are most popular.
Yeah.
You know, we're coming off of Iraq and Afghanistan. You know, Afghanistan's only export is opioids. You know, there's an opioid flood on the market. So any type of opioid you want in the in the 2000s, you can get real easy. So yeah, go ahead and sip that shit, slow yourself down, and make some depressing ass rap music. You know, let's go do it. But you know, so that's what intrigues me about. You know, that ultimately is what keeps me engaged and keeps me interested. You know, even if I don't particularly value, you know, a new style over a previous style or vice versa, doesn't mean I don't find it interesting. Doesn't mean that I'm not interested in it, you know? Yeah,
you're always looking for the roots of where it came from.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to throw a name at you.
Sure.
BrooklynBodega.com.
BrooklynBodega.com. So yeah, man, big shout out to Wes Jackson, Johnny Walker, SF, Kelly Nicole, Run P, our whole era of Brooklyn Bodega, man. Brooklyn Bodega was a fantastic organization in New York City. It was a .org, and what they did was a lot of cultural hip hop events. They had a DJ event called Salute the DJ, for example. They had an open mic called, not open mic. They had a new artist showcase called Show and Prove. And they put on the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival, which was at the time the largest hip hop festival in New York City.
Yes.
And they found a way to work with the city to make it either free or for $5. And you would get just incredible array of hip hop talent at this event. I would always go to the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival. It was one of my staple things every summer when I was living in Brooklyn. And at the time when I was, you know, now at this point I'm blogging when I'm getting home from work and I'm starting to benchmark the stuff that I'm writing versus the stuff that I'm reading. And I'm getting to a point where I realize not everything that I'm reading is better than what I'm writing, but not everything is worse than what I'm writing either. You know what I mean? So I felt like I was competitive. And so I started covering. So after I figured out how to leave the bank, I left the bank. I had money saved up so I could be full time. You live in Brooklyn, you live in New York, you can throw a rock and hit a rapper. So it's not like you couldn't find some hip hop anywhere. And I started targeting certain organizations that I thought did a really great job of putting on cultural events or events that the community really reacted to. And Brooklyn Bodega was the biggest one. So I started you know, covering their Show and Proves. And so the Show and Proves had, you know, groups like Brown Bag All-Stars, Soulcon was in Brown Bag All-Stars, J57, Audible Doctor. You know, they had groups like Those Chosen, you know, Homeboy Sandman was a regular at Brooklyn Bodega events. Eternia was a regular at Brooklyn Bodega events.
Wow.
You know, so this is how I met a lot of people in the scene. That's my first scene so I would just cover these events. And after they had one every quarter. So the fourth quarter of 2009, instead of covering the artists that were there, I decided to cover Wes Jackson. And so I really researched him, met him at the event, you know, asked him a bunch of questions. And my whole goal was to impress him with my knowledge of Brooklyn Bodega, that he would offer me an opportunity to write. And it worked. He did. So I became editor-in-chief of Brooklyn Bodega. It was free. They didn't make any money. They didn't have a budget for actual media, but it helped me develop relationships and it helped me develop a reputation, which was really important. And it also helped me develop repetition, right? Because I also was able to host their radio show, Brooklyn Bodega Radio, on PNCRadio.fm. So at that point, now I'm doing interviews 5 days a week. And I'm also writing for HipHopDX at that time as a freelancer. And so I'm stacking reps really, really fast, fast. I'm meeting people. You know, I'm on air. I'm having content that's coming out on Brooklyn Bodega. I have content that's coming out on HipHopDX. I've got a radio show that's showing up on my socials and on my own blog and on Brooklyn Bodega at the same time. So, you know, I made a lot of progress just by aligning myself with an organization that touched so many different sectors of hip hop, and that allowed me to really increase my knowledge base in a quick way. Not necessarily on, you know, the history of every element. It did that as well, don't get me wrong. But how each element related to each other, if it related to each other, and how the economics within each element and within hip hop in general worked, right? Like how, like, you know, Red Bull 3 style was a very new thing at that point in time, for example. So how did B-boys actually make money? You know, what's that B-boy network? You know, what countries are putting on, you know, B-boy exhibitions? You know, Crazy Rocksteady Crew, Crazy Lakes, and all those guys were around Bodega all the time in New York at that point in time too. So that was a transformative time for me, and I don't think that I don't think without that I would have had the breadth of understanding of the ecosystem in, you know, the culture economy, because that's really what all this stuff is.
That's foundation for you right there.
Oh my God. You know, to the death. You'll never see me outside saying nothing bad about nobody affiliated with nothing around that time, man. I gained too much respect, wisdom, opportunity, and insight to ever point out anything I might have been critical of. You know what I mean? So.
No, salute to Bricc and Bodega, man.
Yeah.
You know, while you were explaining that, a curiosity also popped into my mind. In those times, how did journalists make money? Like to even sustain a life, man.
Well, I didn't. I made $0 essentially. So, I mean, I made freelance dollars from HipHopDX, but I mean, I don't think I ever made more than $400 in a month. You know,
yeah,
as a freelancer. I've luckily had money saved. Like when I knew that I was going to leave the bank to go ahead and do that, I had 5 years worth of. I had enough I thought I had enough to sustain myself for 5 years, you know, while I figured it out. And if I went broke, I had a plan. I'd just go back to South Carolina, you know, help my dad with his business. And, you know, I had relationships at that point, so I could still do online writing. Two of my fraternity brothers, shout out, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. They both own nightclubs, and I had a growing network of artists that I knew. So I felt like, okay, I could just throw shows, you know, and interview artists there. I found a way to do what I needed to do, even if I couldn't do it in New York. And so I was just living off of savings for the most part. And I had a big break in 2012. I got the offer to be editor-in-chief of HipHopDX, which moved me to Los Angeles. And so now I'm officially in the system, you know what I mean? And that's the first time I ever got a salary through hip hop. So how were journalists making money? Most of them weren't, you know, to be straight up. And the ones that were had very strong relationships at the biggest publications, XXL or Complex, or they're writing for whoever they could get a check from. I mean, a lot of that is still the same on the journalism side, especially as we see contraction in a lot of the media outlets that are still there, especially when you see AI showing up. Like, do you really need a person to write a news story? Like, do you need a person for news, right? You need a person for opinion and personality still, but do you need a person for news is a very real question, just fundamentally at the business model of where media is right now.
Just straightforward news.
Right. What, who, what, when, where, why?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, do you need a person for that? I don't know. I mean, a lot of times a lot of websites make money just off of their metadata. For example, like they'll have artist pages, you know, like that just sort of just gives you flat information about just biographical information about any artist or any topic in the space. You definitely don't need a person to write those anymore. You can just chat GPT, give me the Jay-Z's bio, chat GPT, Nas, and copy and paste that and get your SEO, you know, quality up, you know. But now everybody's competing against Google for that type of simple thing anyway. So
you have to know your keywords and everything now when you're putting these types of things together. Yeah,
100%. You have to be very detailed on what you're asking for, because you know, being precise is always the best way to get what you're looking for.
So I'm going to throw another name at you, because we've come down now in the journey to around the HipHopDX times, right? Moving from New York to LA.
Sure.
But there was a pivotal person that helped you also in this movement, even just mentally. Payne.
Payne, man. Oh my God. Payne's the illest. That's my first mentor in the space. You know, I met Payne a day after I met Wes Jackson. Those are the two most important relationships, you know, at that point in time. And DX has always been my favorite blog. Always been my favorite hip hop website, you know. They always had an emphasis on the things I was most interested in. I was interested in the music, but I was also really interested in editorials, you know. Okay. DX always had the best editorial section, in my opinion. You know, I was always interested in what new video might come out, but I was also interested in just the news.
Before you continue, not to interrupt you, right? Can you explain for our audience what the editorial section is? Because not everybody's going to know that watches us, right?
Yeah, editorial is where you have the ideas-based content, right? Describe an editorial breaking down an album or an era or an artist. You know, an album review is technically an editorial that's just focused around one album. It's more opinionated content. It's where you have people that are sharing what they think and how and why they think that, and you get a chance to agree or disagree. Also, you find a lot of really, like in my favorite editorials, they're also incredibly well researched. You know, I always felt like I was learning more through an editorial than I was in news, right? Because news you keep up with on a regular basis, and that kind of keeps you in it. But the editorial stuff is where, you know, my mind would expand, you know, like, oh, I didn't know this about Master P or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I didn't realize that, you know, Nelson George and, you know, Chuck D had this relationship, and that's how, you know, like just stuff like that. And so most of my stuff is editorial, you know, it's ideas based stuff, you know. I think a healthy publication, blog, podcast, whatever, has a great balance of both. But DX always had, you know, the type of stuff that I was most interested in, most prominently placed on their site. And I found out one day after I left, I found out that Jake Payne was going to be speaking on an industry panel at a new artist showcase in Newark, New Jersey. The label was called Vegas Records, and they had invited 10 or so industry professionals to give feedback to 50 of the most mediocre hip hop talent America had to offer.
Wow.
And 8 of the 10 were A&Rs or project managers or something. And then there was Steve Ray's from All Hip Hop, and it was Jake Payne from HipHopDX. And since I knew Jake was going to be there, I was like, I got to go. I got to go in person. I got to go interview him because my plan was to interview him. He'd be so impressed with my knowledge of HipHopDX and the quality of work that I put out after I interviewed him that he would offer me an opportunity to freelance. So I got up at like 7 a.m, you know, in a blizzard, a Brooklyn blizzard, trekked across 3 trains and 2 rivers to get to Newark, New Jersey, walk uphill, paid $50 to cover just to be in the room. They charged me $50 to be in the room. Stayed around for 13 hours. Wow. Just so I could get an opportunity to interview Jake, you know, and my whole goal was like at the end of it, he'll give me a chance to write for DX, and it worked, you know what I mean? And so Jake has, you know, he's been my true north, especially at that point in time, my true north in terms of, you know, reminding me that we're still dealing with people and people's dreams. You know what I mean? You know, it's entertainment. There's a lot of salacious, bombastic commentary that's everywhere. Not every project is good. But you're dealing with people's dreams, right? And so that fundamental reminder has always stuck with me as I put out critical commentary. I don't do diss tracks. Like, I've been hypercritical of Drake, I'll tell you that. You know, I'm sure we're going to get there at some point. And I've been
definitely.
You know, but I've been hypercritical, not because I think he's a bad person. It's not because I think his music is trash. I'm just, you know, there's a fair and balanced way to communicate how you feel without disrespecting someone. And Jake has always been a great example to me of reminding me, you know, how powerful our words can be. And, you know, why we need to make sure that if we're using them, we should use them with intention at all times. Like, sometimes you got to scream fire in the stadium and say some crazy shit. You know what I mean? But, you know, we all had a passion for this. We all had a vision of ourselves being able to carry this torch in one way or the other. And that is a tie that binds, you know, so you never catch me out here saying, you know, just disrespectful things about people because, you know, ultimately we all have the same motivations, you know, even the people who have different motivations, you know, the energy you put out is the energy you get back. They deserve a level of respect, in the same context. So Jake Payne, man, and he's the reason I became editor-in-chief. We developed a great relationship over 3 years. And when he was ready to step down, he suggested I'd be the next guy up. And it worked out.
The power of connections and the power of meeting good people, man.
Yeah, 100%, man. Undefeated.
Yeah. No, salute to Jake Payne.
Yeah.
I also noticed through my research that you're really connected, or you have a real love for the battle rap scene, right? Like even through one of your Facebook posts, you were giving an RIP to Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, man. Oh, man. PH, man. He was in my scene. PH came up in our scene too, man. That was a very, very influential Brooklyn scene that came up. I came up in that time in Brooklyn from the late 2000s, the early teens. Just so many incredible artists and talented MCs. But, the battle rap space, that's the foundation. Everything in hip hop is competitive. And, the battle rap scene is so close to just Black American culture and the dozens and your mama jokes and just how our community's always had a tendency to rag at each other and poke at each other. And a lot of it's really just out of a protectionist, thing, because, historically in Black people in America, if you couldn't take us talking shit to each other, then how you going to deal with white supremacy at the door? You know what I mean? They're going to say some real wild stuff. But battle rap to me is where you see the guys who really care about my favorite aspect of hip hop, lyricism. I'm a word guy, I like the thing I love more about the thing that makes rap music my favorite type of music is the words. There's more words than in other genres of music. You know what I mean? And so, and it's the closest to an actual sport.
Yeah.
Right? So you really get to see someone's pen. You get to see their composure. You get to see their stage presence. You get to see how it connects in the room versus online. You know what I mean? The organizations that these guys have built, Organic, Smack Beasley, Mad Skill or Mad. Oh my God, I was getting Mad Skills and Mad. The same thing. All these organizations around battle rap.
Salute to Beast Mode also. That's the underground league over here in Toronto. I got to throw them in.
Word up. Just what they do is, it's just really impressive too, just on a enterprise level. They found fly ass, sexy ass ways to elevate the art of disrespecting somebody else. You know what I mean? And there's so many transformative moments that have happened in battle rap that continue to ring loudly throughout the culture, that come up in references and songs, or one of those you had to be there moments. Like my favorite battle rap moment was being front row at the stage, leaning on the stage during Summer Madness 2 when Loaded Lux was just undressing Calico. Like when you watch anybody watching this, you watch Summer Madness 2, you can see me and my cousin Sean right there in the front, leaning on the table. I got a towel on my shoulder that says TCM on it. There's when Loaded Lux starts talking about Calico's, he didn't have a father, he's got his daddy. Do you hear a big loud God that just goes like that, like just takes over the that's my cousin Shot right next to me. It's an incredible thing. And I think that, if you really care about, you have to really care about lyricism to even step in that arena. You really have to care about being authentic and to care about stepping that arena. That's the wildest thing though. This week, the people have been talking about reference tracks all week, and I'm not very upset. I'm never bothered by it in the music industry space. That's just you're out here competing with A.W.O.L, man. Morgan Wallen got a whole team putting together songs. You're trying to, in those situations, you're not speaking to the culture solely. You're speaking for the culture. All the people who are invested speaking for the culture to come together and put up some big culture dope stuff, right? And compete with these other genres and represent for the culture in that context. But
so many people in the room for a song.
Yeah, it's a business. It's an industry. Those people get paid. You know what I mean? I have a problem with people not getting paid in anything, but your job sometimes is to be sometimes the songwriter job doesn't mean you're the song performer. There's business lines in this. It's an industry, right? Now in battle rap though, whenever allegations come up that people have got ghostwriters in battle rap, that lets you know how big of an industry battle rap has become too. So I salute everybody over there.
If you find out that Dumbfounded had a whole ghostwriting team behind him.
Oh my God. Oh my
You know what I mean?
Loaded
Lux has 3 writers. Like, what?
Yeah. No, that's, I don't think I'd ever watch again.
Yeah. It's a whole different animal, man.
Different thing.
So, and also now in the HipHopDX world, right? You're writing for them, but also we're starting into a time where we're getting to a more visual age. I started seeing the breakdowns. Okay. First, those were, I cannot remember now. Were those on HipHopDX's channel first, or were they always on your? They were on your,
yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So when did those start exactly?
All right. So the very first breakdown. So what? Okay. So this is 2013, 14, right? This is when YouTube became a revenue stream, a very noted and obvious revenue stream. I think they had just implemented monetization maybe a year or two prior. Mm-hmm. The day before it was announced that I was editor-in-chief, actually, me, the CEO then, Shar Cherian, and the COO, Michael Hogan-Miller, we went to dinner with DJ Vlad, right? So we were sitting down with Vlad, and Vlad's talking about how much money he's making off of YouTube, how his YouTube strategy. He's really just sharing his YouTube strategy with us. And DX didn't have one. They had a YouTube channel, but they didn't have a strategy around it. And so Complex was also pushing people in the Complex ad network to create YouTube channels so they could start selling ads against, YouTube videos too. So it's something we knew we had to do that wasn't necessarily a focus for DX at that point in time. And we had just spent behind the scenes a month, me, Jake, Sharth, and Michael, preparing the new content strategy, getting me used to things before we even announced it to the team that I was coming, right? So I'm like quietly on these calls while everyone is figuring out, what they're doing and how they're doing it. And so after that dinner that night, they were like, all right, Justin, you got to figure out video. Right? So we started off with all the basic stuff. Like, let's give a microphone to a rapper and let him rap, right? So everyone's you got to have your performing thing. So we created a Hollywood freestyle. And so rappers would climb up on the roof, they kick some bars, and they climb down. And that was the package, right? And
what up? This paper. And this is my 16 bars. Look, I make my own moves. I never call you hard like you all. Drag you niggas like RuPaul. Listen, I will not lose on the
We didn't have it. That ended up being a great outreach tool for new artists because it was always very important to me to be able to have new artists feel like they could be a part. There was a place for them at HipHopDX, even as the platform continued to elevate, right? Because in my opinion, if it ain't local, it ain't live. Like wherever you are, you really got to hold down. Yeah. Right. And so that's what that turned into. Then we started doing news every day. Right. And so obviously you got to do news, let's come up with a news package. So we had a show called the DX Daily, and it was basically 3 45-second clips of like short news briefs of things that happened. So it was like 3 stories in one. And then the Met Gala happens and Solange starts beating up Jay-Z in an elevator. Oh, yeah. Right. And so that story was too big to share with anything else, right? So we did all 3 blocks were just on this one story, right? And so keep in mind, this is the point in time where the idea was that shorter content, people had no attention spans, right? So everybody
thought.
Yeah, right. This is what everyone was saying. So we did a whole episode on that one story, and it ended up being the most watched thing that we put out. I mean, it got like 1,000 views, right? But that was huge. You're like 1,000? We were getting 12. You know what I mean? Like, because we weren't spending ad dollars on anything. We were just trying to find our way. And our content the quality wasn't there. We didn't know what we were doing. And so that one we're 1,000. Oh, we got to do this again. So what we decided to do was every Monday through Thursday, we just do regular DX dailies. And on Fridays, we do the DX daily breakdown. So whatever the biggest story was, we'd break that down. The next one was like T.I. I think there was like a shooting with T.I. or something. And so that became the pattern of it. And so we did that for a few years. Not every week necessarily had something that was newsworthy to break down. And we hadn't gotten to an evergreen standpoint yet. The evergreen content idea wasn't really out there in the space yet either. So So we get to, it's got to be maybe 15 or 16. I guess 2016 is probably we had a big breakthrough because we would do these, but not all of them. There wasn't a level of consistency on them, you know, in terms of how we were. It was still very newsy, and there wasn't very much opinion in it, right? And so we did one episode that I was really proud of, and it was called "Is Lean Killing Lil Wayne?" which also included codeine. It wasn't because he was still sipping syrup. Because he was done drinking it like he used to. He kicked the habit. 2013. Right? Because, and so that one was like, we looked at Lil Wayne when he was having seizures on these planes, and he had seizures before that. And then that same week, we talked to Royce the 5'9", who had talked about how his life just completely elevated after he went sober. We talked to Ritz from Strange Music. Ritz at the time was for Strange Music. He talked about similar things. So we put together this package that was really looking at, you know, substance abuse in hip hop ultimately. Right. And I was really proud of it, right? And so I sent it to Toure, the journalist, right? Toure, the journalist, to me, he's my favorite. He's one of my 3 favorite journalists of all time. Right?
Salute to Toure.
I love Toure, right? So I sent it to him and I was like, hey, man, I normally don't send him anything unless I feel strongly about it. Because if I don't feel strongly about something and I send it to somebody, a lot of times I get my I get my feelings hurt, right? And I'm like, man, maybe I shouldn't be doing this at all. Like, if I didn't feel strongly about it and someone else doesn't like it either, you know? But if I feel strongly about it, then it's like, okay, there's something here. Let me see what I'm missing. So I sent it to him on that tip. And then he said, the first thing he said, okay, it's too long. The video was like 8 minutes. He was like, it's too long. And I was like, I threw it out. If this is the time period. It was just the time period. I threw it out the window. I was like, dog, I go to the gym every day. I see people on their phone, on the treadmill, looking at Netflix. If it's dope, people will stick around. But I didn't tell him that. I just appreciate it. The second thing he said was, you need to find a way to make it move more. Because at the time we were just standing in one spot. I was just standing there delivering on camera stuff, and then we cut away to whatever we're showing. So he was like, you got to find a way to make it move more. And I was like, okay, that's a really good point. I should try to figure that out. And then the third thing he said was, and this became the most important thing. He said, when we had our show on MSNBC called The Cycle, it was a Saturday news wrap-up show. And the show got canceled because by the time people got to Saturday, people had already knew what the news was. People had already talked about the whole news. So recapping the news didn't make any sense.
Right.
He said, so you need to, he said, the best part of your video is the last 2 minutes where you're really asking questions about what this means for Lil Wayne. Like, or you talk to the artists and stuff. Right. So what you need to do is reverse it. Just do the news part really short and then extend it. And I was like, that's gold. That's gold right there, right? So that changed the whole concept. So what we did, so the next week after that was Mike Brown had died, right? He was murdered. Mike Brown got killed by the police, right? And so, you know, we had no clue what we wanted to do. Everything, just the whole energy was just really heavy. This is the beginning of that first wave of Black Lives Matter, you know? And so Planet Asia was in the office that day. We were going to interview and we're trying to figure out something to do with him. We didn't know, but everybody was just real down because of Mike Brown. So, you know, shout out to James, roll the clip James Kreisberg. He was the one who's producing and shooting and editing that. And, you know, we were like, yo, let's just sit down and just talk about this Mike Brown thing with Planet Asia. So we rambled for like 30 minutes, right? And that video gets like 800 views. Nobody wanted to see that shit, right? But it served as a palate cleanser, right? It serves as, so if anybody is curious in how the breakdown stuff really happened, you can see the Wayne piece right before it. You see this Planet Asia thing that, you know, was really just cathartic. It was you know, people being real about very real topics. And then the week after that is when everything blows up. And the week after that is De La Soul's Forgotten Rap Beat. A 3-album stretch that includes critical acclaim and commercial success. They did it their own way. But again, gangster rap is now winning. Rap's in a different tax bracket. And so so that piece opens with, because De La Soul had just announced that they're going to start a Kickstarter for an album.
Yes.
And so I was like, oh, okay. So at the beginning of the video, I'm like, it's like, you know, the breakdown, Justin Hunt, HipHopDX.com. De La Soul announced that they're going to start a Kickstarter for their new album. They're asking fans to donate to this, and then they'll make an album off of it. All that got me thinking about De La Soul's forgotten rap beef, right? And so then I talked about how De La Soul and Tupac were beefing, and I knew I was always very curious about why Tupac dissed De La Soul on Machiavelli. I never understood that.
Yeah. And
then De La Soul, they headlined the 2012 Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival when I was running the publication and when I was running the radio. So I got a chance to interview them and ask them all the questions I ever had about that. So I took those old interviews that were in Brooklyn Bodega that no one read because our readership was so low. And I put them in the context of the breakdown, added some different things about it, and just took the audience on a journey looking at this one very particular point in history. And it blew up. That was like the first one that we ever did that really blew up in a real way. And so because of Toure's suggestions, we went from less news, more evergreen topics. There's people are always going to want to know what happened with Tupac and De La Soul. And now we had an idea of how we wanted to do it. So the next week was Bone Thugs beef with Nelly. You know what I mean? The one after that was Prince and Michael Jackson. We had Quincy Jones in that one. The Bone Thugs one had Crazy Bone in it. The De La Soul one obviously had De La Soul in it. Yeah. So now we've got a series, right? But I didn't want this to just be a beef thing, right? So the next week I wanted to try to find a way to still have friction, but not necessarily look at old beefs all the time because I'm very particular about wanting. I don't. The beefs are the most entertaining thing, but I don't feel intrinsically good by promoting conflict between talented artists exclusively. I just don't. You know, it's one thing if the news is happening. It's one thing if there's interesting side stories that are there. But just to have a whole channel that's just looking at beef, like I don't personally. You know, I question myself with it. But we did do this. The next week after that was when we did How to Beat Drake in a Rap Beef. So that was the one did well. That was I mean, after that was off and running. And now we had a product, a fresh product in the space that no one else in hip hop media was doing. It was something that now everyone does breakdowns. Like, you know, but we were really the ones who were the nexus for that. You know,
you guys started it.
We started that 100%, and so I'm really proud of that, man. I was really happy to be a part of something and be able to see so many different people across who might not even know that this is where the idea came from, but to enter something that is very impactful, like hip hop history, and present it in a new way based on an evolution of technology to, you know, an audience that's, you know, even broader than just hip hop culture.
Yeah, for real, man. And just the way that you guys have pioneered that, there's so many different clones, or I don't want to say clones, sons of y'all. Like I see like Hip Hop Daily. I watch their breakdowns all the time. Or Trap Lord Ross, who does now extended breakdowns, but he used to do shorter, like 30-minute breakdowns and 24-minute breakdowns before. What are your thoughts on like the evolution of the breakdowns, the beef breakdowns, or you know, did you know that, you know, when Jay-Z shot his brother, like just those types? You guys birthed that.
Yeah.
Big salute to the sponsors, Diamond Club, with delivery all over the GTA and now all across Canada. They got the best selection of flour, edibles, and pens, and all types of goodies that you need. You can find them on their Instagram page, DiamondClub_Canada, or you can find them on the 7 Days of Weed app, as well as the Leafy Things app. Let them know that you heard about them through the We Love Hip Hop Network, and they may give you a discount. Big salute to Diamond Club. Cheer!
I mean, I think it's great. You know, honestly, I think that these stories need to be told. I don't always agree with the angles that people take with them. You know, I think that, but you know, I can't, you know, I could nitpick anything if I really wanted to. But the fact that people are making a product that shares light and insight into what's happening in something I care about, I'm all for it. You know what I mean? Like, What's the Dirt is a really great YouTube channel to me. I think he's from Canada too, if I'm not mistaken.
He is.
And so like his approach to it is super nuanced, you know what I mean? And You could tell he puts a lot of heart and passion into it, you know, and I think he does a great job. Now, his channel is all just rap beef, right? So, you know, that's something I immediately didn't want to just spend all my time on. So I don't look at these guys as competitors. Trap Lord Ross is all beef. I don't look at these guys as like...
I got to push back a little bit because as somebody who... I've interviewed both of them, right? There's shameless plug. There's both interviews on the channel right now for Trap Lord Ross and Matt from What's the Dirt.
Right.
They do have different like evergreen types videos, like the Kid Rock story and how he switched on. That's
still rap beef. Yeah.
That's still, you would put that on the rap beef category?
That is culture vulture. Yeah, that's definitely rap beef, dog. Like, look at all the people who was beefing. He had the guy, the first guy that Kid Rock disrespected in the video.
He brought him on.
I'm only saying this like this because he describes it that way. He says, guys, like this last video, I think with Euphoria, I think he said he got a flag, not a flag, but he got
demonetized on it. Yeah.
Right. So he's put out the video and said the same thing, you know, I make my money. Can you guys, you know, make sure that you donate? I like to ask for money and stuff like that. And then he was like, you know, this whole channel is just on rap beef. I put all my heart into really getting all the nuances and bringing new light to it. You know, I'm not saying this as a diss or disrespect. I love the way he does it, you know? And so, but yeah, that dude, he had on the guy from Detroit probably gave Kid Rock his name.
And he had beef.
He had beef with Kid Rock. Like, it's a fantastic piece. I love the piece, but yeah, that's, you know, like that's the theme of the channel. You know, I don't think that's controversial. You know, same thing with Trap Lord Ross, right? He's telling you Trap Lore. His name is Trap Lord Ross. It's the
he's telling the lore of the trap. Yeah,
yeah. You know, like, you know, so I know that, you know, these guys, I've seen Trap Lord Ross get a lot of criticism in the same ways that I see academics get criticism. Here are these guys not from these communities telling these stories that, you know, that make a real difference on the ground. And that is a very real thing here in America. Don't get me wrong, you know, especially culturally speaking, right? You know, people get mad at rappers for telling too much dirt about what's going on in the street, snitching in their rhymes and shit like that. Now you got someone who's not even a rapper, not even from the community, telling all these salacious stories, you know, whether or not they're all true, who really knows, but they have a big impact and they have a big influence on what people are, you know, how people view these places. That type of criticism's always there. I think the quality of work those guys do is phenomenal. And I like the fact that, you know, I like the fact that if I want to go look at a breakdown on Larry Smith, who's the guy who beat Michael Jordan for the spot on the varsity basketball team, I can go to NBA Storyteller and get a whole basketball breakdown too. Like this is, I mean, like I mentioned about HipHopDX being my favorite place because of the editorials that they were doing. This is a golden era in YouTube content for me. So I'm happy to see where it's grown to.
And you know, it also sparks another question when it comes to when you guys were pioneering it at the time. Did you get any backlash? Like how?
Yeah, De La Soul did not like that piece.
Really?
Yeah, Mace did not like it. He was like,
Maceo?
Yeah, Maceo didn't like it. He was like, man, we're doing something positive. You know, we're you know, raising money for this album. It's like a positive thing, and you turn this into like, you know, some rap beef stuff, you know, and I had no choice but to eat it, you know, and but you know, but we wanted to tell this story. Now, at the end of the piece, I also have all of them talking about how much they love Tupac, how like Tupac, there was a misunderstanding. I just told the whole story, but you know, artists are sensitive. They don't necessarily want certain things to, you know, cloud other things. And this was very early at the time. So it wasn't even looked at as something that could potentially bring awareness to whatever they're actually marketing. Yeah. This was like, oh, here comes some blogger from somewhere talking shit, shitting on our parade. We out here trying to be grown men with families. You want to talk about 1996?
Well, yeah, bring up old shit, man.
Right. That's what they're doing. So, you know,
damn, Just, you went and pissed off the hip hop legends, man.
I mean, I thought it was a very well done piece, but you know, the same thing happens when you write news about people. No one compliments you when you write news on there. Like this was always something funny. And even to this day, I still think this is funny. You know, we would drop whatever, you know, article about Wale and his turkey drive, or whoever, T.I. and his back to school program, or whatever, you know, whatever Busta Rhymes was doing for the youth, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it was.
For the youth, them.
No one said anything when we dropped those pieces. But as soon as we don't like their albums, now they want to talk shit about us. It's like, dog, he's like, well, why you always don't, or let one of them get arrested and we write that story. You only talk about the bad stuff. No, you don't read the good stuff. You don't read. If you don't read and share the good stuff, why do you think anyone else is? At bare minimum, you could share the good stuff, and that'll make us feel good. So at least you shared it. We're doing something good. Yeah. But now you turn around and nobody even writes about the good stuff anymore. Well, this is what happens when you only show up when there's a problem. If you don't show up when you don't just show up to spread love, just generally speaking, you're going to have a lot of one-sided conversations that happen publicly in the media. It's just what it is. They don't
spread the good news. They only spread the bad news, man.
Well, the artists don't spread the good news. When publication, if you could you guys could do a whole podcast, right? You could do a whole podcast if you want right now on the Weekend's toy drive. You do a whole podcast on all the philanthropy and all the philanthropy that the Weekend does right now, and just put it out there.
100 views,
right? But the real question is, does the Weekend share it? I'm willing to bet he don't share it.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet he don't share it. Now, if you did that and he shared it, you get way more than 100 views.
Facts.
But the artists don't share that stuff.
Good news.
They're just in their own. They'll share it if it's connected to them making some money. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the dichotomy that I've run into quite often. At least back then, I was more in the media. I'm more in the organizational media side at that point in time. But Kev, we sat there and wrote all these cool stories about all the things they're doing for the community. Because especially at that point in time, I had a very community-driven focus on HipHopDX, and nobody cared. They didn't, and the artists didn't share it. But then let us talk about something they wish nobody would remember.
They're on the phone. All of a sudden, they have your phone number.
They're calling their publicists. Yo, the dude with the twist at DX said I went Hollywood. You know what I mean? You know who I am talking about. So you know you did that shit. I'm not, you did go Hollywood. I'm not gonna say who it was, but but yeah, like stuff like that does happen. And I think that that's just I just charge it to the game. More than anything else. People aren't going to always like what you made. Like I found out this week that someone very close to MF Doom didn't like the Doom piece I made. I thought it was one of my best pieces. Yeah, they said they felt like it was disrespectful because I questioned whether anybody would. Which is the show ends with I don't have the answers to these questions. Like every episode ended like that. But they felt like because I questioned whether anybody would go see Zeb Love X if he never put the Doom mask on. Right at the end. And the piece is really being hypocritical about Doom fans, right? Because Doom fans get mad when the Doom bots show up. But that's what Doom would do. That's like the best thing about Doom is the Doom bot. Like who else was that far ahead? They could make money and not even show up and be on brand. Like that's really awesome, right? Yeah. And but I described his place in hip hop as very weird and left of center, which to me it is. I don't think that's necessarily. That's not a hot take. Right. And also at that point in time, weird wasn't like weirdo like it is now. Like you get called a weirdo now. That's a real, at least in LA, that's very disrespectful to call somebody a weirdo. That's why YG made that song Weird about Drake. You know what I'm saying? He put a different kind of stamp on Drake with that one. But he did appreciate that. He didn't like how I questioned whether anyone would go to a Zeb Love X show if he was if he never put the Doom mask on. Yeah. And, I just said it, I was like, oh man, I'm sorry that it came across that way to you. You know what I mean? Like I'm a huge Doom fan, and to me, that's a celebratory piece that looks at the hypocrisy of Doom fans, I thought it was a good piece, man. Yeah, but sometimes they just don't land the way you think they will with whoever. You know what I mean? Like I don't do diss tracks. If I was gonna do a diss track, I'd do a diss track. You know what I'm saying? Like you have no Vaseline up in this mug. Like why would I spend all this time putting together a piece on Doom just to diss him or anybody? Like I wouldn't do that. Even like the critical stuff I've been saying about Drake lately. You know, like Drake deserves to smoke isn't that critical. It's just pointing out, it's critical, but it's just pointing out why all these guys are ganging up on Drake. Okay. This guy is talking about their women in his music. I didn't even say that he was actually f***ing their girlfriends and shit. I just said he talks about their women and I kept it public, right?
Right.
Talk about their women in music. He's aligned with someone who's playing with people's numbers. He got a cease and desist on French Montana. He called Rick Ross racist. You know what I'm saying? He used Tupac for his AI advertorial. None of this stuff really aligns with culture. Okay, none of it really does, and that's what it is. That's how I would have. I don't think that media should be void of criticism. I think you have to be critical. You have to have a critical eye, but I also think there's a way to be respectful in how you present it. You know, I didn't call that dude any of the things those guys he was beefing with were calling him. I didn't do that. You know, like I didn't call him white boy. I didn't call him the pastrami posse. That was Rick Ross, you know?
It just gets dicey though, because, and I can imagine for you even more than myself, because I do a lot of commentary via the podcast or when I'm doing my live streams on different things that are happening in the scene when it comes to the artist. I'm not just going to talk about Ray who got shot selling a pack. If he doesn't rap, he's probably not in my news story. And I feel that that's the same with you throughout the years, whatever platform you've been on. If the person doesn't have any type of relevance in the entertainment scene, their crash out is not going to come up.
Yeah, right. I'm not doing hood politics. You know what I mean? Like I'm not. Shout out to Bricc Baby. Bricc Baby's one of the first rappers I met when I moved to LA. He was going by Shitty Cuz back then. Right? Not to be confused with Shitty Cuz, who Eric Holder, Shitty Cuz.
Yes.
Bricc Baby used to go by Shitty Cuz. And, you know, Bricc Baby's got a lot of light right now. He's been on No Jumper. People are covering him and some of the things that are happening around him. That's not my beat. You know, I can't get into gang. I don't know anything about. I'm not in a gang. I don't know gang politics. I'm not trying to talk about neighborhood politics. You know how dangerous and disrespectful that is. You crazy? I like going outside.
You ran down on.
Yeah. What am I even doing? You know, like that's not something that I would ever take lightly or play games with or disrespect. You know, start talking about people not being real. No. Yeah, you know, man, this is people's dreams.
Yeah.
People's passions, you know. You have to be careful with how you do it, you know. So you can be critical without being disrespectful. I do my best to do that all the time. So if that doesn't come across that way, I've got enough reps to accept it, you know, take the L and move on, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Can we just go back before we go forward quick, fast?
Sure. Because
you left HipHopDX at one point. Right? This would be probably around 2018 time, 2017?
Around 17.
Right? And then you had a short stint on Revolt.
I wasn't on Revolt. I was a recurring commentator on Revolt while they did the Revolt live show. So, you know, anytime they needed people to talk about what's happening in hip hop, I was one of the people that would come through. Big shout out to all the people at Revolt that were, most of them have left at this point in time. There's been a lot of turnover over there. But they did Revolt Live, which was basically their TRL. And that was right down the street, you know, and on Hollywood Boulevard. So, you know, anything that was happening, you know, I'd go down there and be on the show.
The studio is nice.
Oh my God, yeah, it's really dope. But I still write for Revolt, you know, so I do their year-end top albums list all the time. I'll do editorials for them, you know. So I got a lot of love for the people at Revolt. I think that's a necessary platform. You know, we don't have. I'm not even sure who the owner is now, to be honest. But to know that there was a Black-owned TV network media entity in America, there's only like 2 or 3 of those. You know, like that was I always had a lot of pride writing for them.
Now, you know, with Revolt being something that we're talking about, we'll be remiss to talk about Revolt and not talk about Puff.
Right.
Big salute to Steamin' Hot Grabba with a variety of different grabba flavors and dispensers. They got red rose grabba, that red herring grabba, and peanut butter. Hit them up on their Instagram page, Steamin' Hot Grabba, and use the code WeLoveHipHop and receive a discount on your order. Again, you can find them on Instagram, Steamin' Hot Grabba. Now let's get back to the show. Cheer. Now, with everything that was going on with Puff, with you having a role in any way over there at Revolt, what was happening in your world? Are you like, what the hell is happening?
That was so far away from me, to be honest. And it's far away from most people at Revolt. Like that's his personal life. I mean, obviously, I've been around Diddy enough to know his energy, but I don't, I never saw him commit any crimes or anything. I never saw him be abusive. I've seen him be energetically, Puff Daddy. He's Puff Daddy. I can see that. I've seen him look like Diddy on Making the Band. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, that was so far away from anything that I experienced firsthand. And,
So you never got invited to the parties?
No. I mean, not the ones at his house. No, I've been to their events and things like that. But, I guess that's a good thing. Now, you never know what kind of deposition you might accidentally end up in.
The party.
Right. You never know.
Damn.
But I don't know. I think that oh my gosh, that whole thing just makes it so it's like, it justifies everything in everybody's mind. Any accusation Diddy ever had to me feels like he probably really did that. He definitely killed, Tupac and Biggie. But in my mind, feels like it. Seemed like Diddy would do that.
Feels like it now, man.
Yeah, it seemed like he would have done that,
Well, let's throw an allegedly on it still, because
allegedly, right?
Right.
But that's the problem. Perception is reality.
Yeah.
And once you see that, and after he spent all that time saying he didn't do that, and all those posts talking about time tells truth, you know what I mean? And all this TD Jake stuff, calming the storm, that is, the dude was running down the hall in his socks and a towel.
Crazy.
Snatched that chick up, kicked her twice on the ground, threw a vase at her, drug her down the hall. In a 4-star hotel. Not even a 5-star, a 4-star hotel. A hotel, a class of hotel that looks easy to manipulate if you're a billionaire.
Dude, you know what gives me the chills? Besides just what you're explaining there, you've had the chance to look these people in the eyes, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To just find out later on that such heinous activities happen. It's one thing to see it through the screen, like myself. I haven't gotten to meet a lot of these people where you've been in so many different rooms in the industry that you've gotten to meet a lot of different you've just, we've mentioned a bunch of different artists in here and so many that we don't even have time to get to. Mm-hmm. But when you see somebody that you met and then something like that happens, it must be a different kind of feeling.
I mean, I'm not sure if it's different. I mean, at the same time, it's, there's certain things I just don't tolerate from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Abuse of any kind, I don't tolerate. Beating up women, I don't tolerate. Disrespecting Black American culture, I don't tolerate. People who are hustling, stealing from people for or disadvantaged people, less fortunate people, that Brett Favre shit, I don't tolerate. My values are in line with my grandma's, and my parents. Mm-hmm. It's just those are things that are embedded in me. So I'm not sure if it's really that different when you see someone, because even if you've never met Diddy before, he's one of these people that you feel like you've known your whole life. It's like when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, right? Everybody felt like they knew both of those two figures, Everyone felt like they had a connection with them in their life at some point. And, that's, that was just that was a crazy moment on its own. So I don't know if it felt different. I don't know if I felt disappointed and sad for Cassie. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That was crazy. The level of trauma and drama she had to live through and endure. Because that's not an easy person to get away from.
Yeah.
Even watching that video, it looked like she played dead, right? When he threw her to the ground, she just played dead. Right, he kicked her twice, and she just moved her hand there and put it there. Right, it looked like she'd experienced that before. That's the type of behavior that someone who's experienced trauma does. It's like like when an animal's got a lion there, it just plays like it's dead. You know what I mean? That's terrible to see. Like there's another part of that case of the filing where she actually left at some point and then came back to apologize to him. And the hotel staff was like, no, you need to leave. You need to get out of here. That looks like abusive behavior. If Diddy's anybody who has $1 billion, if they want to find you, you're found.
Yeah.
So.
That's Stockholm syndrome right there.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's just awful. So I don't know if it's any different for people who have met him or known him, at least for me, it wasn't. To me, it was really... It's really tragic all the way around. And I don't know I think Diddy needs to leave the state. I don't know why he's here. I don't know how you do business here. He just had to exit all his properties. Why don't you just leave?
I have a theory on that.
Okay.
I feel that hip hop as a whole is so toxic that we've excused domestic violence for so long that he's already seen the pattern. So he just has to wait it out. It's not going to happen in 2024, but by like maybe 2026, early 2027, as soon as everything blows over, we'll welcome him back in like we did Dr. Dre and many other people who've abused women, and everybody publicly knows about it. Not like in secret. Everybody publicly knows about some of our favorite hip hop all-stars. Okay? Young and old. And after a while, because of our toxic nature and I don't know what else, different things that we have underlying in the hip hop community and just our welcoming nature, we'll just, you're healed now. I've had some time to really, build myself back up. He starts donating to foundations, different things to show that he has changed behavior in front of the scenes. He'll be back in by 2027.
The one thing I think that makes it a little different is that we saw the video.
Yeah, but Justin, we saw NBA YoungBoy body slam his girlfriend too.
But NBA YoungBoy is a child. His name is NBA YoungBoy.
As a journalist,
how about this? Has NBA YoungBoy really come back? How often do we actually see NBA YoungBoy at all? I agree with your broader point that, I think we do I think we, as a culture, justify domestic violence in a way that we shouldn't. I definitely agree with that point. I think the difference is, was NBA YoungBoy running down the hall in his socks and a towel?
No.
Did he kick the girl twice while she was on the ground?
No, but
did he throw a vase at her?
Even though we didn't have the video
Has he been a billionaire mogul for 30 years. I think that's the thing. Like I can't think of any other situation where we've seen the video and someone came back from it like that. Yeah. Right?
Without the video,
never came back. We haven't seen Ray Rice.
True. Without the video, also that the video evidence is the nail in the coffin, because when we get to the recounts of Dr. Dre and D Barnes, and like from the different things that I've read and from different books and different things where I read about the recounts of that incident, right. That was a vicious incident. Like he chased her into a bathroom, dude. Yeah. And he went on to greatness.
We didn't see it.
That's the thing. There's no video evidence of it. But when I hear the details,
it happened, but we didn't see it. Like once you see something, it's different.
Yeah. And also just to I guess take my point down even a little bit more, I'm also a researcher. Not everybody did that research.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Dee Barnes, man, she's a titan in our space. And, I've had the pleasure of meeting her a few times. I know Dee Barnes, and that's one of the strongest people in general I've ever met in my life. And I love that she's still an advocate for women's rights and, isn't cowering away when these conversations show up. You know what I mean? And,
salute to Dee Barnes.
What she survived is Oh man, let's talk about something else, dog. We are over here.
Okay,
we're over here heavy. I'm just playing. We can talk about this. I'm just saying, it just gets really.
It gets heavy, man.
It's really heavy to think about
because you got all of these different people. R. Kelly, the P tape that went around that after these things happen, and even with the NBA YoungBoy point, yes, he's kind of down now. But after that incident first happened, I remember doing a YouTube live and going over his playlist and songs that came out months after that incident went down. And they were all in the hundreds of millions. I'm just like, fan base unwavered. I'm like,
no, it's not.
It's bad. and that's the thing. We'll just look it over. And on top of that, we'll look that over. And if we find out that, oh my gosh, that person might be gay or something like that, that's actually worse than if we found out that he was beating his chick.
Yeah.
That's how toxic we are in hip hop, dude. Right.
That's true. That's true. It's a toxic culture. That's what I mean, man. That's true. And people want to see it.
It's not our fault. We're just in it. But it's like, I'm just saying.
Well, no, we all have options
observers.
But we all have options on how we, how we use our platforms.
Yes,
right?
That's true.
We all have that option, right? And so, there's just certain types of things. That's why I choose the type of conversations and content that I do, from our platform. We all have the option, Now maybe it means we need to spend more time talking to people who are abused by people in power. Yeah, I think that's a very real question. And I think that this era has shown us that there are people in power who've been held accountable, right? Like Weinstein has been held accountable, Bill Cosby held accountable. R. Kelly held accountable. What's his name? The guy from Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey, yeah.
Like these guys, like a lot of these guys are getting called out there. So
Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, Weinstein, Epstein. He got arrested. He got unalived one way or the other. But he definitely. These guys aren't escaping justice the way they used to. And so we'll see how it plays out with Puff Daddy.
Yeah. Side question right here. And I just have a few more questions before we wrap. Right. What's your connection to Rude Jude?
Jude, man. Jude's my boy, man. I love Jude.
This is Brother Lynch Hung, Season of the Sickness. That's SICCNESS. Let's go to Return of the Baby Killer.
Jude, right? Shout out to Jude, man. Jude had me on.
And besides Jude, salute to Jenny Jones for putting Rude Jude on the scene, man.
Right. Because you're a dusty broad. I love that clip. Yeah, man. Jude is amazing, dog. He's like such a genuine person. Funny as hell. Anybody knows Rude Jude. He's funny as hell. We met out here in LA, and we pitched a collaboration with his show. And HipHopDX, and we just maintained a relationship, kept a relationship since then, and that's my man, dog. Like we have the most honest conversations on and off air, and I know that we have the utmost respect for each other and very different opinions on life. You know what I'm saying? Like we, if I
great debates.
If I see red, he sees blue. You know what I mean? And that's to me, it's just a great example of, how you can be cool with somebody, even if you have just different ways of looking at the world. And I think that we're in a very polarized time right now where people are like, you co-signing this? Like I'm in Tariq Nasheed's documentary, Microphone Check, The Hidden History of Hip Hop. Right. And, I'm not sure if people are familiar with Tariq Nasheed, but he's an author. Yeah, he's an author. He's a producer. He's a director, motivational speaker.
And he's hilarious, man.
He's funny. Yeah, advocate for FBA. And so, but he's polarizing. When we start having the FBA conversation, it's, people feel like it's xenophobic or it's separating Black people from other countries within the diaspora or other races or whatever. But, I personally don't care because that's the only experience we've ever had here. From our lineage. So I like people who are advocating for us to view ourselves as of people with a lineage and not some lost souls who don't know where they're from. Like everyone treats us all the time, you know.
Yeah.
Especially people in the Caribbean. It's so weird, the Caribbean. Like Busta Rhymes is like, black people don't know where they're from. And it's like, Jamaica's the same age. Jamaica's the same age as it's the same age, man. It's the same age. I'm sorry. It's the same age.
Same mix, different place, man.
You're right. That's what I'm saying. It's so funny. But either way, that's why String the Siege is polarized. So, a lot of people say, "Oh, you co-sign all this stuff in the documentary? Oh, he's this false flag and race baiting and stuff." And I'm just like, "Yeah, I guess so." I thought it was a really great documentary on founders of hip hop. You know, like if you want to go see Cornbread, the guy who invented modern graffiti, you know, you can hear him talk. He's a fantastic interview. He's a funny way of talking about stuff. You know, and you know, so. My point around that is I feel like we're very polarized as a people, as a society. I think the internet makes it really easy to be polarized. And, you know, Jude and I, even though we have very different views, like he hates new rap. You know, I like new rap. You know, he hates it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, you know, and then, you know, just broader stuff outside of that, you know.
He's one of those anti-auto-tune old heads.
Right. Yes. You know, and I think he's very cynical. I think he would describe himself as very cynical as nature. Maybe he thinks maybe that's not the right word, but, you know, some synonym for cynical by nature. And I'm not. Like, I'm the exact opposite. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we've been able to develop an amazing friendship, you know, through that, while still being our own people and having respect for each other. So that's what I loved about what we were able to do on Shade 45, because when we were on, you know, the audience could hear it, you know, they could hear, and they would always tell us, like, the black dude sounds like the white dude and the white dude sounds like the black dude, you know, like our voices sound and the way we talk. So it was funny.
Yeah. No, salute to Rude Jude, man.
Yeah.
Also, you know, just as a Canadian network, as a Toronto network, I'd be remiss to not talk about some of your Drake commentary. You've been kind of hard on the boy. Pause. All right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, no Diddy.
Now, as somebody who's been covering this beef extensively, I've been seeing you ramp up with the company channel, and salute to you also being more consistent with the content.
Thank you very much, man. I'm enjoying it.
Can we let's just put a bookmark and stop there for a second?
Sure.
Because you know, R.I.P. to your moms. You know, I understand how that feels. So R.I.P. to your mom, Dukes, and I know that you took a little bit of a hiatus.
Right. But
you're back.
Yeah, man. I think my mom is guiding me right now, man. And so I really appreciate that. Thank you. I'm enjoying it. One of my resolutions this year was to create more content, but also, you know, evolve my content strategy, because it was a breakdown channel. I was a weekly guy at best, right? So I want to evolve that content strategy, be more news focused, which will allow the breakdowns to come more naturally. If I'm covering stuff that's happening on a regular basis, then I have a lot more to pull from when it's time to do breakdowns. And that way I can, you know, even bigger, grander ideas are still moving in that direction more consistently, so everything doesn't feel like heavy lifting. And so I'm hitting a good rhythm with that.
Yeah, and now at the same time as the ramp up, a whole rap beef starts,
right?
Which is just like content Christmas, you know what I mean?
It is. It's like 2020 all over again.
Yeah. So there's breakdowns on the song, there's breakdowns on the homie's character and the different things that he should do. Now, as a hip hop,
those are just suggestions, you know. It's the closest I get to a reaction, you know. It's the closest I get to a reaction. I'm gonna start doing reaction videos too, though.
And listen, as a commentator myself on this hip hop scene, okay, I always give my objective, honest opinion. But I also know that there's different people who are listening to the content, i.e. even some, you know.
Right. Yeah, you gotta be careful over there. You don't want to get your house shot up.
You know what I'm saying? So chill. But like, when it comes to commentary on Drake, there's so much different things to talk about. Okay. Yeah. But one thing I want to know, with everything that's happened, what should he do now? Because I seen the breakdown even on the Sexy Red record.
Be a real person, man. Just be a real person. Like that seems like the hardest thing for him to do for so long. Like, find a situation that happened where he was a real person. When that dude peed on his leg.
Oh, come on, just don't do that, man.
I'm not sure that's how a real person reacts. It wasn't like the man
stood next to him and peed on him directly.
If someone gets too close to peeing on your leg, I'm not sure. How about this? I won't do it. You're right. Maybe that's uncalled for.
Come on.
The
situation was weird, man. It's hard for him and Chubbs and those guys to start flipping out in there, man. Come on, man.
I guess.
Especially if it was an accident. I don't think he did it on purpose, man. R.I.P. to T.I.'s homie, but like, I don't think he did it on purpose, man.
Wasn't T.I. talking about this week? All right, we'll leave that alone.
Let's leave that alone. Remember,
right. That's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair. I'm right. That's my fault. I apologize. You know what I'm saying?
No. Okay, but regardless of them watching or not, who cares?
A real person, right? Because look, I mean, you know, I feel like Drake's success has turned him into more of a superhero persona than when he originally started. I think, you know, he was very vulnerable in his music, you know, more often.
Yeah.
I mean, even the way he approached his music was more emotive. And I think after, I don't know this factually, but I feel like after he beat Meek Mill, you know, his success, along with the success that he had, but also having what was viewed at the time as a quality battle win, you know, inevitably you get more people who become more critical of you, more detractors, which makes you have to harden up a little bit. So you got to increase your stature and stuff. I think that's very natural, right? But I don't hear love in his music. You know, I hear lust. You know, I don't hear joy in his music. I hear pleasure. Okay, I don't hear, you know, honesty in his music. I hear, you know, projection, right? I think the number of times that he brags about things that I'm not sure are honorable, you know, like I feel like there's the number of times he's talked about people's wives and women and hooking up with their girlfriends or people in their lives. Like, you know, I'm not sure that works as a maturing artist, right? You know, I think I parallel him to Kanye West in a lot of ways because, one, there would be no Drake if there's no Kanye. There'd be none of this without Kanye, basically. But he's found ways to be infinitely young, right? And so his ways of being infinitely young is always remaining counterculture, right? Every population catches some shade from Kanye at some point in time.
Right.
It was George Bush, Taylor Swift and the Grammys. It was Black people, it's Jewish people, it's corporate people. It's everybody's going to get it from Kanye at some point.
Yeah.
And it always mirrors whatever the youth's biggest, you know, problem is. Like whatever the youth are, he's early on that kind of stuff, right? So he's gotten past the point where he needs to be the guy with all the fresh bars all the time. And that's part of his brilliance and genius when it comes to music. He just knows how to bring worlds together to make stuff that's impactful, you know, but that to me is his youngest, truest, most youthful quality to him, you know. So when he says crazy stuff that might sound juvenile, it's not coming from a place where it seems like he doesn't care, he's above it all. Like he is extremely emotional. He actually cares all the time about everything, maybe way too much, right? On Drake, it's like the opposite side. Like he feels like he is, you know, he's assumed a mob boss persona to a degree. And maybe that's out of defense mechanism. Maybe it's out of, protection from all the, you know, he's got a lot of enemies, for a long time, you know.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's what it is. Maybe it's ego. I tend to think it's just ego and being on top for a long time and actually being very disconnected to what's happening in real people's lives on the ground, you know, but like, I think he needs to be a real person. Also, I think he needs to find something to stand for. You know, the number of times I watched him in interviews, especially in Canadian interviews, like that Q interview was such a transformative interview for me because that dude asked Drake, how come he doesn't talk about like social issues or real stuff or however he said? I don't want to say what Drake talks about isn't real. I think, you know, human emotion is very real. You know,
yeah.
but why does he take his conversations broader? He says he can't talk about anything that's not happening in his own life, right? Now, to me, that is the most minimizing quality as an MC, right? Not even just whether or not you're going to care about some voting topic or something like that. Just the fun of a third person story, like regulators or something, la-di-da-di, like just some fun third person narrative story, I think this is the genre with the words, man. Like, there's all kinds of ways to tell stories. The children's story,
he sprinkles stuff in there, like Kennedy Road. Like he'll sprinkle names of different places out here where like us over here will be like, yeah, I know that place. But the actual what happened there kind of thing, I guess is what you're looking for more.
Well, I'm not looking for personally anything at this point. I've got my favorite Drake projects. I think I'm good. Like the ones I love are the ones I love. Because I've lost respect for him now. I'll be honest. Especially the way that this battle transpired, because I didn't realize he was this disconnected from a lot of very loud cultural things that ring with Black Americans, like the slaves line is crazy. Calling Rick Ross racist is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, playing this victim mentality. He started talking about Whitney straight up. The whole song is "I'll be with some bodyguards like Whitney." From the beginning. And then he shows up on Family Matters. He's like, "You the one who brought the kids into it. What is that?" Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is to me, having his mom on there telling him not to say nigga, and then just disrespecting his mom, that's crazy to me. Like, it's like he could have just had his dad. Why did he have his dad? He should have had his dad on there and been like, "Go get him, son. Rep from Memphis." That's all he had to say.
He's in a tough position, man.
Is he? Is it that tough? Look how successful he is. Look at all the things he's amassed over this long period of time. Look at all the relationships that he's built. There has to be some reason. And you guys did a great job on the Canada Doesn't Have a Sound episode.
Thank you.
Talking about how the challenges you guys all have. Like you pull from New York sound, you pull from a Caribbean sound. There isn't one thing that really defines what's happening in Canada. He could have been that thing. Every opportunity. And maybe I think he is to a degree when it comes to 40 and that 40 sound for that period of time.
Yes.
But
that sound, that underwater sound that Drake and Party Next Door kind of introduced in the 2015 times, maybe 2014 times. That was the most Toronto sound that was resonating throughout the whole world.
Right.
That was the most.
Right.
And I just feel that we never built up on top of that and
he
said,
jumped off it. He jumped off it to the next thing. Like, I just feel like when you're repping for someplace, you're repping for someplace. And Central C reps, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody that's coming out of Afrobeat be repping, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't get it. I just don't understand. And I feel like that is also something that was very loud in this battle back and forth. Like, I mean, you guys on your podcast were talking about, does Canada have a sound, right? I've seen so many people critical of whether or not Drake puts enough people from Canada on. That's something that's been out there for a very long time.
Are you talking about publicly or are you talking about behind closed doors?
Both. Both. Drake been around 15 years,
True.
like the battle rap guys loved it, and then they got very. I don't want to do that, but either way. So it's like it's like I feel like there is what I see when I see that is like, God, he's got to have so much corporate pressure. He's got to have so many people so many dollars he's got to recoup. He's got to have like I know he's got a direct with Universal now. That's got to be like
400 million. What was reported for 400 million plus?
He knows what it is, but it does because he tours so much.
Yeah,
he makes so much, and he has to make hits. Like it has to be hits. I don't know, and I don't know if he's really. I don't know if he has other products that he's the face of that really travel as far. Like I don't don't see Drake as like Kanye stylistically, you know, people emulate. A$AP Rocky stylistically, people emulate. You know, like I'm not sure if Drake's, you know, brands. I'm not sure how that works around the world. I'm guessing it's really successful, but I don't look at him as like a style trendsetter. You know, so I feel like most of everything is based on his music. Like his music has to stay number one. And
that's his main bread and butter.
That is a crazy thing to have to do at this clip for this long. And so to me, that makes sense that he needs to team up with all these other artists all the time, and things have to be, he has to, you know, work with people who have a big enough audience to keep him younger, right? Ultimately, that's the direction he continues to move, right? I think a lot of this probably could have been avoided if he just put out that second Future record before he started working with 21 Savage, so up close and personal. Like, possibly. You know, like show some love to everybody. Don't just jump off. Don't give the impression that you're jumping off, you know, for the new young hot thing or whatever all the time. But I just can't imagine how, like, you know, I worked in Empire for 2 years. I was the closest. That's where I really learned the business of selling music. Like the business of like feeling what that was like. You know, these things you have to recoup these things, you know, and like what kind of financial pressure would Drake be under? I mean, probably not anything now, but like what contractual obligations execute if Drake only sells gold? Like if Drake just goes gold, like what does that actually look like? You know what I mean?
You see that right there, and I've thought about this before too. You know, sometimes I don't even know if I've expressed it on air. I just weirdly just have these thoughts in my brain. Can he level down? Right? Is it just, you know, for his own ego to be able to say, well, I'm just going to do whatever I want, whatever type of album I want, and it might just go gold because my core audience or the mainstream audience is not going to receive it. But let's say that quote unquote hip hop album that everybody always talks about. If he was to do that, he'll lose a big percentage of his regular audience, but he might make himself happy. But would he? Because losing all of that audience might be the thing that, you know, that audience might be the thing that keeps him happy.
What does that mean to lose? He's Drake. It's a streaming area. I don't like, you know, he has so many hits that are in constant rotation globally. I think he could take a risk.
That's from him. Sorry, that's from his perspective. However, it's never going to happen.
Did he say that, or are you just thinking that?
I'm just thinking, if I can get into his head for a minute, you know what I'm saying? No Diddy. Yeah. Now, from the label's perspective and the different business partners he has, it's never going to happen. Once you sign and you get they give you that much money, they're never letting you off the hook. They're going to make you work until you ain't got nothing left in you, man.
That's what it looks like to me. You know what I mean? And I could understand. I mean, that to me is why it can feel like a no-win situation. And that's why I've lost respect for him in this battle, right? Because, you know, I think it's very easy. I think ultimately the thing that is most consistent, whether you're talking about things that these artists are saying on these tracks, the patterns that have been pointed out with, you know, like some people dismiss this. Oh, they're just mad because Drake's fucking all their girls. Well, why? Why would he? That's a problem. That sounds like a Drake problem to me. You know what I mean?
No, but that's a problem. People shouldn't do that. That's not.
Yeah, that's what nice. I mean. There's something there's some kind of weird trigger in there.
Humanely, it's not a good thing to do.
Right, as a human, it's not a good thing to do. You know, I mean, whatever that Ebony Prince 2K24 stuff, something happened because that dude, that journalist, Christopher Alvarez, and that online account. That stuff ended up in a Kendrick song, okay? The Kendrick song opened the conversation for that stuff, right? Yeah, whatever it was, there were some weird things that happened there. You know, Drake's bodyguards have a reputation for really fucking people up, like just regular people. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, just overly aggressive stuff. I mean, from Houston to New York, like there's a lot of situations where I know that factually, right? And all these things are just down to just being a good person, a cool guy. And you know, a lot of these things I wasn't even, you know, thinking about like that when it comes. I just think about, you know, oh, here's another pop rap album that's not talking about stuff that matters to me at this point in my life. You know?
Right.
But now I'm like, dang, he sounds like a terrible dude to be around.
No, but let me ask you something.
Like that to me is the story of this. It's like, yo, man, like everywhere around him, except for the game, everybody around him, whether from where he's from or who he's worked with or in hotels he's stayed at or whatever.
He's got a lot of people pissed.
All these people just can't wait to, like, where's the defense?
But were you consuming his material though? Like, let's say before all of this shit happened.
100%.
Not as a journalist, but just like as an audience member.
My career is longer than his career. My career as a journalist is longer than his career, so it overlaps, right? But yeah, I mean, I interviewed Drake once in 2009. I've saved it for the book, and I met about guerrilla journalism because he came into my club. Right, this is back when he was saying "diss me" and you'll never hear a reply.
You never hear a reply.
Yeah, and I was critical about stuff like that. I was critical of that. I was like, "Yo, it's not a hip hop thing."
Famous last words.
And he was like, "Yeah, you know what? But this is what I had. Like, this is probably the moment I had the most respect for him because I was talking to him, and he was like, this was at Southpaw. I was at this club called Southpaw in Brooklyn.
Okay,
that was the club when I was talking about my rise in the independent in that scene. A lot of events took place at that club, right? And so I went from being in the back of the club covering whoever was performing to hosting events at that club, right? So anytime somebody of note came through that building, someone would call me and tell me to come through. So I got a call that Drake was in there because Zoe Kravitz was performing. So it was Lenny Kravitz, Zoe Kravitz and her band, and Drake was in there. And it wasn't even that packed, right? So I got on the train, showed up, right? Got 3 questions with Drake, and he was nice enough to give them to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm guerrilla journalist. I'm not. This isn't some sit down plan. Nothing. You know, this is like, hey, I'm a dude right here recording shit on my BlackBerry. Let's get this together.
On the BlackBerry.
He was cool enough to talk to me. At that moment, I realized he was taller than I assumed he was. He's got some stature on him. And I asked him. One was like a basically introductory question. I asked him a question about my favorite Drake lyric, which was at the time was, management want me to go to the club. They said I have fun, but I can't imagine how. Because all I see is my ex-girl standing with my next girl, standing with the girl that I'm fucking right now. And it can get weird. And I love that line. That So Far Gone era was special, right? And so I asked him about that. And I'm like, how do you, whatever. I can't remember. I asked him about that. Then I asked him about diss me and never hear a reply for it.
Diss me and never hear a reply for it.
That was the 3 things, the 3-question interview. I got so good at 3-question interviews back then that it helped build my entire career, right? So I got the 3-question interview with Drake and I asked him about that. And I respected his answer so much because I thought it was some pussy shit that he was on. And he was like, no, actually, you know what? I've already gone through that era of my career. I know what the difference between rap beef and real beef is, you know what I'm saying? And I need to focus on building things and not destroying things, right? I got so much respect for him.
The media training.
Yo, that was so early, whatever it was. But I wasn't aware of all that stuff, right? I'm in Brooklyn. That's when I find out about Aristo and Big Payne.
Yep.
That's when I find out about Good Riddance and all that stuff. That's when that's how I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I wouldn't be out here trying to beef either. I done made it from getting almost
he just escaped a bunch of beef.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I'm with it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So that era to me, that was a real person. That was a real person. Now we're over here however many years later, and apparently nobody likes him. I don't think they're all bandwagon. And his security be beating people up. He's got all these, you know, he's talking about everybody's girl for so much. Kendrick Lamar brought that boy back to diss me. You'll never hear a reply for it. That's the last thing he said on the Hard Part 6. You can drop them all. I'm not replying. He finally went back to that. Maybe we can get back to being a real person in his art and his music. And I think it'd be great if he actually had something he stood for other than, you know, his personal perspective.
Yo, Justin, that just hit me in the chest right there because you brought it full circle. Listen, as somebody who's been here and seen his rise from back when he was freestyling in front of the clubs and stuff like that, And, you know, I was there for all of those Aristo beefs and Big Page and all that. I seen all that from ground zero.
Right.
But I had no idea that you spoke to him right after that era. So you gotten to see Drake full circle, like not even full circle, but you've seen him from the Genesis to like
180
pretty much
degrees.
now.
Yeah, I mean, almost full circle. He's back to. He's basically back this being never hear reply for it, at least with Kendrick.
Yeah, that's
but like,
crazy.
That's where my perspective is with him.
Oh, it makes your perspective gives so much more depth to your perspective because you literally look the man in the eyes and ask questions to him when he was just in the beginning of the tunnel, man.
And he was cool enough to do it. That's what I'm saying. That's why I've never done I don't do diss tracks. I don't hate on his music. You can't hate on Drake's music. He's got too much flyness to hate on. Even tracks, Drake is like, you know, he's like Super Mario. Okay, you might hate video games, you still know Mario. Okay, you might hate hip hop, you still know Drake, right?
Yeah,
you know, he's way too talented for as narrow as he is, in my opinion. But that is my opinion on the things that I appreciate about hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that comes from. Outside of that, I don't know those other things. You know what I mean? Like, it's a small industry. Of course, people, you know, pillow talk in all kinds of different directions, but I haven't seen him assault anybody. You know, I've never seen him do anything inappropriate with an underage woman. You know, I've never seen him, you know, like I got a phone call one day when his security was fucking somebody up at an event. You know what I mean? But that's what security is supposed to do. That's not, that's what I would need security too. If I, you know, had people testing me all around the world. I mean, one of the breakdowns we did before it blew up was, this is 2015. This was like when it was just the news-based ones. And it looked at that week where Drake was at, he was at King of the Dot. With Murder Mook, the Murder Mook King of the Dot thing happened. Suge Knight threatened Drake. Diddy, I think that's the same week, Diddy smacked Drake.
Jesus.
He shot an air ball at a Kentucky basketball game, and then Jay Prince released a calling. He was doing calling cards. I think it was called courtesy call. My bad. That's how he opened all the Rap-A-Lot records. He came out defending Drake, and then I was talking to I got someone at Rap-A-Lot to talk about what that actually meant. They said we want to let all these people know who are out here picking on Drake that he's one of us and we have his back. You know what I'm saying? And the whole point of that video is Drake the most powerful man in music right now? Look at this. Battle rap, Suge Knight, Diddy, Jay Prince. Is he the dude?
Everybody wants a piece of him.
Right. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't I was like, my videos then all ended with, I don't have the answers to these questions. But like that's a crazy week to have. Like the stuff that he's my security will be rocking heads too. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm not out here, I'm not looking at any of that other stuff. I'm just saying as an artist. And the things that I value in hip hop most, he used to be very good at, except for, he used to be very good at that when it came to describing his own life. I mean, even Charged Up has one of the very few lyrics you'll get from Drake where he talks about a social issue. He's like, cops out here shooting people with their hands up, and you Meek Mill out here doing this. You know what I mean? He could be that. He could be so much more, and so much more than I think he, for one reason or another, allows himself to present. And I think that's the only thing left, because outside of that, it'll be interesting to see. A hit song is a hit song, but it'll be interesting to see what happens over time, because if he keeps making certain missteps, Black people in America, like we don't, like when Black people stop talking about you or stop supporting you, it resonates. Like like there's a publication, it's a Black sports publication called The Undefeated. You know what I mean? And they did a top 50 athletes of all times list. They left Tiger Woods off.
Damn.
They left Tiger Woods off because Tiger Woods spent all this time saying he was Cablinasian. When Tiger Woods showed up,
take that card.
right. When Tiger Woods showed up, every Black dad was taking their sons to learn golf somewhere. When he did that, we just leave him alone. He's still Tiger Woods, just out there.
Take that card away from you there, sir. We don't take that black card, put it right back in our own pocket thing.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Because we're used to a lot of Kid Rocks, right? You know, Clarence Thomas, you know, like Post Malone. Like,
yo,
like,
dog, you're making my heart beat because I don't want Drake to be put in those categories with these names.
That's why I think being a person and finding something you really care about is like, it's going to be necessary. Because what he did on That Sexy Red shit, it's not even streaming well. It's only got like 2.5 million streams on Spotify. You know?
It's because the song is not good. And I've already publicly said this, and I'm not going to go into another rant about it. Like, if you're going to choose a song to come back on, don't choose the song that everything else outside of your verse is just auditorily just irritating.
And also rap about something better.
Yeah, that too. But like, if you're gonna come back on a feature, jump on a feature where the song's actually good.
I mean, look, he's probably making money off of Sexy Red and everybody in the music industry, given what these people are alluding to, the kind of deal he has. You know, that's not going to serve him any favors on the Cool Point side. But yeah, you're talking about. You're still exhibiting a similar level of tone deafness to this community that has gone, that Kendrick made a #1 song called You're Not Like Us about, you know? Like, maybe this stuff doesn't matter to a lot of people around the world, but these are very consistent patterns that happen with music and things that come out of Black culture. And this happens all the time. Like, this is not a new thing. You know, like this was OJ. Black people didn't care about OJ until that trial. Because of all that shit, all that stuff he did. It's like, you know, it's like, it's not malicious. I'm not just saying some stuff that's, you know, ridiculous to say in 2024. I'm saying this stuff is on the table.
No, but you're just putting together a nasty list right now, Justin. I'm just seeing all of these people next to each other on the list. I'm like, ugh. Nobody wants to look at that lineup right there.
Right.
OJ Simpson at the end of the lineup too. Oh, next to Post Malone with the long braids coming down. That Post Malone.
Right. Cornrow tats and trap beats. Post Malone. You know, I mean, Drake is always going to be big. And I also think that I don't think people really talk enough about how Drake is an incredible immigrant success story in hip hop. He is the first international artist to break America.
Yes, from here, man.
Yeah, that is amazing. And maybe, you know, the weight of that isn't something that everyone thinks about, but that has not happened. Like, who's the 21 Savage? You know, Slick Rick. Like, how many are there? And whoever even get to this level? And this is an immigrant nation, except for two populations: Black people and Indigenous people. So everyone else, he is this. Like, I would be inspired by that if I was, you know, an immigrant here and I saw someone. And I was in the arts and I saw an immigrant break big, I would be super inspired. So he's going to have a sizable base regardless, I think, just because of that as well. And also all the music that he's made that people don't want to remove from their lives.
No, man.
But like,
he's achieved greatness, but
he's got to figure this thing out.
Well, that's to ask for that. What can we do to help us over here in Toronto, over here as Canada, like our scene? Is there anything that we can do to help bring Drake up so that when it's time to, let's say he has to come back with a whole bunch of other diss tracks, like let's say this happens again and like a bomb storm happens again lyrically, like
where were y'all in this? Like, were there's just like some like, you know, maybe Kendrick disses I just missed that are floating around?
Well, we had one guy. We have our own YG over here. It's just WHYG.
Yeah.
YG35. Salute to him.
Yeah. I've seen him.
He came back with a song against Kendrick.
Okay.
It's called Mad City, Good Youth or something. I forgot exactly the song, but he went for his head. Yeah. Like immediately as soon as it started. So I salute to him.
Okay, good. That's good.
But to be honest, as far as rappers of notoriety, I don't really know anybody else who came to Drake's defense.
And why is that, do you think?
I don't know, man.
Come
Lately,
on, man.
just to keep you in the loop,
yeah,
YG and Pressa, salute to Pressa as well.
yeah.
There's
Press is dope.
a recent.
Press is dope. I fuck with Pressa.
Yeah, big salute to Pressa. There's a recent video of them over at the embassy playing basketball.
Right.
This is within the last 48 hours of us filming this right now.
Okay, good. You got to get your base, man. Like that's. But why though? I maybe okay. I don't want to put you on the spot. You know,
put me on the spot. I am here to be put on the spot, bro.
Because it sounds like you're pretty ambiguous about why there isn't more support for Drake in Canada from the artist community, from the rapper community.
I'll tell you straight up, there is a split down the middle over here. Okay, and a lot of people won't admit this, but maybe this is why I usually have this is why I have the mic. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's people who don't think that Drake is the guy, and they're part of that community. Different people that we've mentioned in our conversation. R.I.P. to PH. Not the battle rap community, but like the people who are real lyrical. I'm gonna listen to Rock Marciano hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Like I host some of these events and that happen over here, and they don't play Drake in these events.
Mm-hmm.
There's no place for Drake in these events while you're playing the new song from Conway, and then getting into a hip hop, old school hip hop thing where my boy DJ Law's playing Nas is like and all that. They don't put Drake in those mixes. So when I bring Drake up in those circles, and that's a big percentage of the hip hop audience, no matter what anybody says, that underground movement is big. They don't rate Drake in the underground movement.
Right. And they don't do it over here either. And
then the opposite, they rate Kendrick.
Yeah.
He's their savior. Yeah. He's the one who doesn't dress flashy. He just presents himself as he is, like all of them in the audience.
Wow.
You know what I mean? His clothes might not be the cleanest when you see him on camera, but he's the biggest one of everybody who just speaks his mind.
Right.
So he represents that part of the culture over here. And Toronto is very hip hop, man. Right. So if you don't have those guys and you only have like the more mainstream audience and then like the younger audience who's like into the drill and different things like that, that's not a strong enough base to hold you up as the guy out here. When it comes to the hip hop scene, you're going to be still the mainstream most popular guy because that mainstream audience is over. It takes over everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but as far as getting that heart, the hip hop heart, where like now we're going to be like, no matter what Drake does, we'll champion it. It's not there because it's never been there.
Right.
And on a percentage of that audience is older. So they're salty on top of that too.
Right. Like we were talking about at the beginning. Oh, it's got auto-tune. It's got to be awful.
No, not just that. They're salty from him being around and whatever, and different issues that they had with him being the soft guy, whatever it was, you're like back in the days, he was, when he started to really start getting more attention, he's getting played on the commercial station where you got to compromise your art a little bit that people feel, right? But to me, that was just always him to get on those stations. So there's always been a little bit of animosity when it comes to the 40 and up hip hop head.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard when the bass is not there like that, man.
So, okay. I think maybe it was Peter Rosenberg and his show that I saw them talking about this. Talking about how Drake never really did underground songs with anybody in the underground.
Which underground?
Even American underground. Like any
No, not American and Canadian underground. I'm talking about which underground. The underground that they have, which is like the young guys who might get 50 to 100,000 views on YouTube underground, but they kind of do drill, auto-tune, different things. Or the underground beat bars underground.
Any of them. You need both of them. Honestly, you really need the bars. You need whatever quintessential hip hop is. Look, big shout out to my boy Optimo Ram down in Houston. Right, he has Optimo Radio. And, Houston. I got so many great relationships in Houston. Just the people in that industry down there. yo, they are the truest people I've ever met in the music industry. I've not met one slick person in Houston. I've met a lot of people in a lot of places. I ain't met nobody who's ever did me wrong in Houston, period. My man, Optimo Ran, he always says it's so true. If it ain't local, it ain't live. Right? You got to have your bass. And in hip hop, you got to have the hip hop bass. Like whatever the bass is in the bass in hip hop is hip hop. It's not rap music. It's hip hop. That's the bass. Yeah. You have hip hop. It makes it easier to transition into whatever you want to do or wherever you want to go. Right? Like so, you don't look at Sway is hip hop. Joe Budden is hip hop. You know what I mean? Like you don't have just people who come in and start talking that aren't really hip hop at their core like that. You know what I mean? Or don't have a very close understanding with it, or have people who, you know, are being respected on that level, right? And so that's what I hear what you're talking about in Canada, because he didn't do that here. Like he could have easily been on some, you know, Griselda stuff wild early. You know, I think he sounds incredible on beats like that. He got Conductor Williams on For All the Dogs. Yeah.
And he has a song with Benny the Butcher that never came out.
Right. And it took forever. Like, you know, he could have got him early because he's good at getting stuff early. You know? So it's like, I don't know. I just feel like I didn't realize how he hadn't done that until Peter Rosenberg pointed that out over the past couple of weeks. And you're saying it again here now too.
It's just listen, just to sum up everything about the whole Drake conversation, there's a lot of decisions that got to be made when you're the top rapper. It's a lot of decision making. Like we've talked about a
corporate rapper, and I'm not saying that to take away from him being the top rapper, but I think that's where these decisions are coming from. These corporate affiliations will limit, like people. Michael Jordan did this, right? Michael Jordan was like, Republicans buy shoes too.
Republicans buy shoes too.
Right. Well, we are in the LeBron era now. Okay, LeBron is.
We're in the Kyrie era.
Yeah, these guys are actualizing independence in every aspect of, you know, celebrity. Independence on political thought, independence on how contracts are done, independence on how they build their businesses, independence on how they relate to other corporate entities that they're with. Yeah, they're innovating on how business is done. I'm not sure Drake is innovating on how business is done. You know, maybe he's got a piece of Gamma or a piece of this, so he gets, you know, extra points back on stuff. But he seems very much in the Matrix. And I feel like that is, you know, that is where those decisions are made, right? Because Kanye can go out and piss everybody off tomorrow, and he can, fine. He's got direct access to his audience. He's got a 7% conversion rate. He can go make whatever. You know, 9% conversion, 7 times whatever the revenue is. He can go do it right now. LeBron James can go do that right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of these guys can do that, you know. I'm not sure Drake could do that.
He can, but he just has to like get out of the chains of the industry.
And what'd you say earlier? You got $400 million deal. They're gonna work you to death. Is that what you said?
That contract. There's probably the word perpetuity in there somewhere.
I'm sure it's gotta be. Yeah, that's how it's reported. It's a lifetime LeBron size deal, as reported. I mean, but like if you think about that, right? Like, you know, there was a very loud conversation in the early teens about Drake because everyone felt like he could have been one of the first artists to really just be independent, not have any label at all, because he had something most artists never have in America. He had Canada already. He's the Canadian Zach Morris. I mean that complimentary, right? Everybody grew up knowing who he is, and he's a fantastic artist. He really didn't need to sign to anybody. All things considered, like he could jump the line. This independent idea in music is very old, but the online independence really starts when streaming shows up, right? And he's right before that. And so we used to talk about that all the time. And but we understood that the reason he signed to, you know, J Prince, Young Money, Cash Money, you know, Republic, Universal, that's a long list of names, right? The reason he did that is because, at least from our perspective, I can't speak on that, but it looks like the reason he did that is because he needs cosigns. Rap is a very cosign industry, and not necessarily from the artists that you're faced forward with, but it's very difficult to, you know, go certain places or go outside in certain areas or be a superstar the way you want to if you don't take a deal from somebody. You got
to at least from the beginning from Wayne. from here being in Toronto, I feel if he didn't get that cosign from Wayne in the beginning, it doesn't resonate with you guys down south there in the United States, because you got that Wayne, the biggest rapper in the world at the time, saying, yeah, he's up next.
Right.
And then for us over here in Toronto, we have this bad habit of, if that person's not standing next to somebody American and being co-signed by them, we're not giving them the maximum respect that they deserved from the beginning before that happened.
Right. Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that. So and the byproduct of that is, okay, well, now you're locked into these deals. Well, he's out of the deals now, as far as I've been told, and that's where he got this Universal deal. He's direct with Universal, right?
Yeah.
And so
then you're back. Then you're back in it.
And that's a bigger entity to be back in. Now you get a bigger piece of the pie. You know what I mean? But like, I just feel like those covenants have got to be crazy. So that's what I mean. Like, he has a lot of considerations to make in a very corporate sense, because can you go outside and just start, you can't completely flip the script. He is in a tough spot because, you can't make too much change because people won't respect it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've been hypothesizing around it. I think it's a good idea for him to be a real person and really talk about his lived experiences, because two things resonate with me after listening to 15 years of Drake. One, I really don't know shit about Canada or Toronto. I feel like I should know a whole lot more. And two, I don't really know anything about him. I know what his life is like in Snapchats, in IG captions. I don't have anything of weight in one place. Like, I don't have a Eminem Yellow Brick Road. You know what I mean? I don't have Drive Slow Kanye West. I don't have
Marcy's son.
Right. I don't have a Marcy son, and I don't feel like I know him, and I don't feel like I know where he's from. And so I think I would lean in that direction, because at this point, I think people need to be reminded of that he's earned the gravitas of his catalog.
Yeah. No, so listen, man. He might see this. He might see a part of this. Salute to you. You got a lot of decisions. You got a lot of things to think about, brother. My last question I have for you.
Sure.
Okay. As a true hip hop journalist, okay, somebody who's really seen the evolution of this hip hop journalism from when there was just print online to being visual. What's your views on hip hop journalism in 2024?
I'm on the outlier, right? Because I'm not a trained journalist. I was in finance, right? And so I'm a self-trained journalist who came up because of the advent of technology. I had if it wasn't for blogs, I wasn't published in the source, I wasn't coming up in I didn't have any New York writer cool friend table access, I got in where I fit in and was able to build off of the legacy and tradition of things before me, always keeping it in high regard and holding it in respect. You know what I'm saying? I think that there is a lot of great people like yourself, like you guys. What you guys are doing is right there in the same line, same lineage. I think the Dirt, what he's doing is in the same line, same lineage. I think we're also at another one of these precipices where evolution, where technology is changing. It's all about the podcast, just like it used to be all about the blog. I think a lot of people feel like, all you got to do is turn on the camera and all you got to do is turn on the microphone and start talking. Your podcast will blow up. You can let them know right now. You know what I'm saying? It's not how it goes. So there's always people who flood in. There's always people who wash out. Right? As long as there are still opportunities for people to express themselves earnestly and honestly, an opportunity for them to uphold the history, traditions, and covenants of hip hop, I think it's in a great place. As long as people have access to just the internet, I think that is in great place, because we try to get rid of net neutrality all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I am very concerned about all these publications getting acquired, because I don't think consolidation in any space is a good idea. I don't think living in a monopolistic oligarchical environment is positive for anybody, no matter what they think. And that's what I'm most concerned about, because that's where everything seems to be moving. We only have like 5 real banks in America. We don't have like 5 real car companies. We only got now we're going to have like 5 real media. We only have like 5 labels. We have 5 real publishing companies pretty soon.
Yeah.
And that is my concern. So with, people having ideas and thoughts and doing great work, I think I salute them and I want them to keep doing it. And people out there who are doing terrible work and doing agents of awful, as I like to describe them, all these agents of awful, that's my personal perspective. You know what I mean? Everyone's going to have that. I'm only concerned about the consolidation in the space, but I'm also really excited about the level of innovation that's right around the corner, because we always do a good job of kicking through the window if they lock the door on us,
No, man, well said. Listen, man, I really, really appreciate this conversation. Like I said in the beginning of this, right? I was just watching you guys, or watching you on YouTube from the HipHopDX channel to now the breakdowns, and I've always been saying to myself, this guy knows what he's talking about. It wasn't like a question of does he know what he's, just the way that you disseminated your information that I seen in the beginning, just evenly. It wasn't you weren't trying to be extra animated with it and try to be a character. You were just giving us the information and then giving us opinions at the same time. I've always been like, salute to this gentleman right here. You know what I mean? And listen, for all the people out there who don't know who Justin Hunt is, punch yourself in the face, okay?
Word up, my brother, man. I appreciate you so much, man. This is great.
No, thank you, man. And
we're gonna have you on my show too, man. I'm starting to do lives. I'm gonna start doing lives. So that's the other next wave of things I want to add to the channel.
Yeah, what's coming up next?
I want to start doing reactions. I'm a breakdown guy, more breakdown commentary than I have been lives and reactions. So I want to add that. I want to just get in there and see what that feels like. I did radio for a few years. I feel like it's got a similar vibe to it, at least. And then I want to start collaborating more with other channels. So I want to definitely want to have you on, but I also want to have a panel. So like maybe you and the 2 other guys, 2 other cats channels I respect, maybe Professor Sky or Curtis King or something like that. And then we could all really just talk about, get our Piers Morgan on. You know what I mean? Get our Piers Morgan on here, I'm down. But I really appreciate you, man. This is a great conversation, man. I'm a big fan of your show and your platform, man. So anything I can ever do, just let me know.
No, thank you. And likewise, we got Justin Hunt in the building. Great conversation. All the people out there, make sure to hit the like, subscribe, all the people on the YouTube space. And for the people on the audios, you know how we do it. We offer this. Deuces.
We love hip hop.